What's up guys, welcome back, and in this video I'd like to continue working on the front end of our GraphQL application, and more specifically I'd like to work on mutations. So in the last video we got most of our queries working. So we have the ability to display all books, featured books, and books in certain categories here. And we also have routing, so it goes to a specific book and shows the details of that. And now I'd like to work on mutations. So if you look at our design, you'll see that there are links here for editing and deleting this specific book. And there's also a link here for adding a book. So let's start with adding a book, and then we'll work on creating and deleting, updating and deleting after. So back into our home view. Let's go all the way up here and let's just put a link here. Let's make it a router link. And we are going to make it go to books create /books/create. So let me just put that in the router. So I am going to duplicate this one. And I'm going to put it up here so it takes precedence over this one. So books create, or let me name it books add. That kind of sounds better because you're not creating a book, you're adding a book. So let's name it add book. And let's name it add book view. Okay, let's make a new component here for adding a book.view. And let's just put something in here. Form for adding a new book goes here. Okay, and let's see if this works. And I don't think I have my app running. I do have it running. So where is it? Oh, I forgot to put something in here. Add a book. So there it is. Okay. Did I change this? I think I forgot to change that. Books add. Sorry, books add. So let's try that again. So there we go. Okay. So I'm just going to paste in a very generic form here for adding a book and all the fields of a book, just so you don't have to watch me add the form fields, because that's going to add a lot of time. So let me just do that.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here's what I added. It's just a basic form, and there's nothing Vue specific here yet. And there's some basic styles in here, so it doesn't look too ugly. It still looks very ugly, but there we go. And these categories are hard-coded as well. Okay, so let's start making this dynamic. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is populate these with the correct categories. So let's go ahead and grab some code from here. So the one with the categories, let's grab. So let's grab this Apollo query. And let's go back to add book. And let's paste it right underneath here. So underneath this form group. And let's remove this. And let's just list the categories here. So let's put it as a div. Take off this href. And let's get the correct query. So you already have this. It's this is required in. And it's @GraphQL/queries/categories.gql. And let's remove this click handler and the class. if I did this correctly, this should show the categories in our book view. And it does, cool. So we want this, but we want it in the dropdown. So let's just replace this div with a select, because that's what we want. We just want to copy this. And each one of these is going to be each one of these in the v4. So we'll change it to option. And we will add a value here. The value is category.id. And in here, it's just going to display the category name. So this should work now. Let me comment this out, or just remove it. I'm going to take this, move it in there, and this should now populate the categories, and it does. Cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so now I would like to add a V model to all of these fields and just hold them as state in this component, because we eventually have to submit this to a backend. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's start with this V model equals title. And I'm going to do the same for all of the fields. This one is author. This one is image. And obviously this is going to be some sort of image picker component or like a file uploader, but that's out of the scope of this tutorial. Description, V model, description, link, featured, and for the select, we can put a category here. And now let's make some state. Script, data, turn. So let's just put everything we just defined. So title, author, image, description, link, featured will be false by default, and the default category is just 1. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so we're not going to see any changes here, but if we open DevTools, let's see if this reacts to changes. Let's go into our component and change. Does this change? It does. Cool. Author, image, description, link, featured works. This works. Awesome. Okay, now let's work on that create book mutation. So let me go into GraphQL Playground first. And let's try it out here. So it's going to be mutation. I think I have one called create book. And this takes in the ID. Oh, no, no ID. Just whatever parameters you need to create the book. So title. New book, author, and all the other fields. Okay, so here is the mutation. So let's try this out. Okay, so that created a new one called new book. Let's just double check the database. So it should be number 25. And there it is. Cool. And it added everything we specified in the query. Okay. So we can copy this, and let's go ahead and make a new query under mutations. A new mutation, I mean. Let's call it add book or create book. I'll name it add book, but the actual mutation is called create book. Yeah, just get your names right. Create book. So let me just replace these. So I'm gonna put a bracket here. Oops, I want it here. And I'm gonna paste that in. And then I'm gonna replace that with variables. Okay, and now let me just replace these with the variables. Okay, so now back to add book. Let's make a new submit handler on the form. Where's the form? Here it is. At submit.prevent. Let's call it add book. And let's go ahead and make a method. Methods, add book. And let's just see if this works. Okay, add book, adding book. And let's go into the documentation and take a look at how to do mutations. So let's grab this. So this Apollo mutate. So it's all of this. I think it's all of this. So it's pretty long. And a lot of stuff we don't need, so let's just work with this. See if it's the right indentation. So this closes this. Okay. Don't need this. Okay, so we don't need any of this. Don't need that. But we do need the variables. And let's go ahead and just import this instead of using this GQL thing here. So let me this. And we'll call it create add book. Yeah, let's call it add book. And let's import that up here. Just like we did in the last video. So import add book from GraphQL, mutations, add book.gql. Okay. Oh, sorry, this goes outside. And this can be add book. And the variables. So let me just grab everything in here. See if we can just do this. And let's see if we can work some magic here. Copy that. And say this dot. Let's add. Okay. I think that is it. Let's see if I did everything correctly. So, any errors? No errors. Cool. So if you're curious about what this WebSocket is, it has to do with GraphQL subscriptions, which is a feature of GraphQL. And I haven't explored it yet in the Lighthouse package, but I think this is what this WebSocket error is coming from, where this WebSocket error is coming from. So just ignore it for now. Okay, so let's see if this works. So this is what happens when it's successful in this then callback after the promise resolves. So we just want to console log the book that is added. And in our query, we're just returning the ID and the title. Okay, so let's try this. Say great book, great author, and the image is going to be broken. Like I said, it's just a text field, so just make sure this image exists or it's going to be broken. This is the description. Same with the link. Just make sure you add a proper link. See if this works, and let's see if this works. So it should be 2, category ID 2, if it works. So it looks like it did work. Awesome. So there's the data coming back. It's just the ID and the title. And just to double check, we can check the database. And there should be a new one in here. And there is. Awesome. And 2 is correct for category ID, and everything else looks like it worked. So what do we want to do when the promise resolves? So we want to clear this information, or in our case, we just want to redirect back home. So let's do that. So let's just do this, router push, and let's just go back home. So one more time. One more. Author, image. I'm just going to type gibberish. Featured, biography. So now this should redirect to the home page. And it does. See if it's down here. And there it is. Cool. And let's check the database just to make sure. Should be in there. 27. There it is. Cool. Okay, so now let's work on editing a book. So we go into one of them, and then we want to be able to edit this book. So we want a link in here. So let's add that link first. So let's go to book, and just underneath this, let's add 2 links here. Let's just say edit and delete. And let's both give them a class of, what did I name it? I think a link margin, just to give it some margin on the right. And let's see how this looks. All right, let's put that in a div. Just wrap it in a div like this. Cool. Okay, so now it's on the bottom. Awesome. So let's start with editing. So let's go into our router and make a new one for editing. So I want it to be books ID / edit. Books ID / edit. And let's name it edit. Let's name it edit book. Okay. And I'm gonna duplicate this one because we're gonna be reusing a lot of the logic here. Duplicate. Let's call it edit book. And say edit book. Let's change this to edit book. And down here, let's change it to edit book. Actually, no, that was the method, right? Yeah. And let's change this one to update book. And we will import that. And we have to make that new mutation. And it changes to. Okay, so let's first, again, play around in the playground. And let's check out how this works. So I'm going to paste that in because it's very similar. Update book. But now we need an ID. So let's update the one we just created, or the one we created in here, so 25. And let's say new book. Changed. Andre changed. Image. Changed. Changed Amazon. Changed description and featured false category 2. And we just want to return the ID and title. See if this works. I think it's called update book. So it did work. Let's see if all that stuff changed in the database. 25. So you saw all of that changed. Cool. So let me grab this. And let's do the same thing. Say update book. Let's paste that in. And let's add all the parameters in here. So we need all of this stuff. Let me just do this. Okay. And there has to be a $sign here. And they are mostly strings. So let me just do that, and I will edit this. ID, this is required. This is required. These are not required. This is a Boolean. And the category is an int, required. Okay. And same for this. Change this. Oops. Just add the variable like that. And that should do it. Update book. Update book. Okay. And let's give that a try. So right now it is not going to populate it with the information that it already has. We'll do that right after. So it should go to 16/edit. We'll put the link here. Let me just put that right now. So edit book and book. This should be a router link to what is it, /books/ID/edit. So there should be book.id. Okay, does that work? So what's wrong? Data.book.id. Okay. Okay, so yeah, like I said, this should show the information about the book, but we haven't done that yet. I just want to check that it does update, but I think I forgot something here. So in our update book, so we have the ID here, but for edit book, we don't have the ID here as state. Actually, we don't need it as state, but we do need it when we're passing it to the mutation. So let's just add that. ID is this.route.params.id. So let's save that. And let me just go to one that I created down here, just so I don't edit one of the ones that has a proper image. So this one, edit. Okay, so title is 27, since that's the ID. Author, change, and for this stuff, let me just do this. Let's make it ASDF for all of them. Featured and science. And what did I do after? It's going to go back. I don't want to do this. Let's just see if it works. And seems like it did work. There you go, 27. Let's check the database. There you go. So it added all that. It updated all that. And everything seems correct. So where do I want it to go? After we go in here, we edit it. I want it to go back to the read page. So instead of this, we just want it to go to /books/ this route.params.id. Okay. But yeah, like I said, we want this information to be populated as we hit edit. So this has to be populated with the correct information. So we already have a query for that, and we already did that in the book view. So let's do something similar. So let's import book from, just grab this, queries book.gql. And instead of using the Apollo query component, I'm just going to do it the original way, where we just use that Apollo field here, because I need to do something after it is successful. And I don't think there's a way to do that with the component. So let me show you what I mean. So if you go into the API reference, there is the example I want to show you in here. So this result hook is what I want to make use of. So this code is executed after a successful query. And I need that because I want to update the state once we have a successful query. So let me just grab all of this and remove what I don't need later. Okay. So I'm going to put it right here. Okay, so let's make a state to hold the book. So I'll put it in here, and it'll be null by default. And this is what we want to populate. So book. And the query we already have imported up here, so we want it to be book. So we can remove this. And variables. So we have to use it. This way is the correct way. If you look at the original example over here, it is just, where's variables? Variables. Yeah, it's just an object here, but we have to use a method, and I'll tell you why as I write the code. So I tried doing it this way originally, and it didn't get the route parameters, which we need because that's the variable we need. So let me just show you what I mean. This route params. So you have to wait for the route params to be available, and this is the way to do it. Let's do that. And the variable we want is the ID. And it'll be this route params.id. So yeah, like I said, if you just did this, like this, then it wouldn't work. The route param won't be available. So you have to use this method. Okay, so we don't need this. But we do need this result. And we don't need any of this other stuff. And I don't think I need this. Okay. So all I want to do here is just update this state over here, just so this information can show here in the template. So I just want to do this .title equals, so it's going to be data.book.title. And I want the same for the rest of the states. This is going to be author. This will be image. And category is going to be a bit different. It's just going to be data.category.id, because that's the way the data is coming back. So if I did this correctly, this should work, hopefully. And it does, cool. So as you can see, the data is populated with the correct information. So which one is this? This is number 3. So if I were to change this in the back end, this should update. Number 3, Sapiens, changed. And let me just save that. If I refresh this, it should be reflected there. Cool. So one more test here to see if this works. I don't want to change this one because it's going to change the image. It's changed. Let's make it not featured. And let's make it go to biography. Update book. They should go back to the Vue page. It does. And it looks like it worked. Let's check the database. Refresh. There we go. Awesome. Okay, now let's work on deleting, and that should be it. So I want to delete this, and then I want it to go back to the main page with this deleted. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to our book.vue. So right here. And let's add a script here. We have to import that delete query. Delete book mutation, I mean. So import, we'll make this in a second. Delete book from GraphQL, mutations, delete book.gql. Okay, let's make that delete book. And let's go to GraphQL Playground and check out how to delete a book. So it's just mutation. You need the ID, and that's it, I think. Oh, sorry. Delete book. You need the ID. Let's delete the last one here, 27. And that's it. We can return the ID of the deleted thing and even the title if you want. And that should be gone. Cool. So let's grab this. Let's paste it in here. Should be an ID required. And then ID is ID. Okay. Back to book. Let's put a click handler on this. The delete link, Let's do prevent so it doesn't scroll to the top of the page. So delete book. And let's add a methods in here. Delete book. So this dot Apollo dot mutate. Mutation. Delete book. And variables, we can just do it the normal way. So id this dot route dot params dot id, and then smooths up data. Just console log it, and let's go back to the home page. So this router push home, and that should do it. Let's see if this works. Okay, so let's go home and let's delete the last one. Let me just refresh this. So let's go all the way here. Let's go to 26, great book. Okay, let's delete it. Okay, that looked like it worked. 26 should be here. Okay, it's still here. Okay, so it is still here. That's because it's cached. So if I refresh this, it should be gone. So yeah, we have to handle that case. Let me just show you the database. It should be gone. I didn't really do too much research, or I didn't think about it too much of how to solve that issue of caching. We obviously want caching if it was like a real app, because that would save hitting the database. But for this case, I just removed caching completely, which is not ideal, but it does work. So I think it's called fetch policy. So if I change this to no cache, then it's not going to cache at all. No cache. So let's try it again. Let's delete new book changed, delete, and that should be gone. It is gone. Awesome. It should be out of the database too. Awesome. So there you have it, guys. We've done a lot of work here on our front end and now have complete CRUD functionality for all of our books. So a few things I would consider if this were a real app. The first one would be, so remember when we did categories here? This is just happening in the browser. Say, for example, you wanted to send a link to someone with the specific category selected. That wouldn't work. So what I would consider is adding a route to save the state. So that would be like categories /4 as we click this. And then you can send this off to someone and that would preserve the state. So that's one thing I would consider doing. Another thing I would consider doing is using Nuxt for server-side rendering, mainly just for SEO, if you care about SEO. And it also makes routing slightly easier. So yeah, that's another thing I would consider, using Nuxt. And yeah, I think that's it for now. So in the next video, we'll add some styling to make it look somewhat decent. And maybe even in another video, we'll polish it up with maybe some loading spinners, some proper validation, and maybe some refactoring to clean up some of our code and maybe some bugs that snuck in. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.